Stacktastic, the weekly web show for the avid comic book reader and those who aspire to become so. Now, as I've pointed out many times, when it comes to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, my least favorite movie to date is Captain America: The First Avenger, largely because it was just 2 montages. But I gotta admit, this new Winter Soldier movie looks pretty interesting, and so today I thought we'd both take an introductory look at Captain America comics, which I've never really been that into, nor are a lot of people. The latest comic book stats, September 2013, put Cap's title at number 52, selling just under 40,000 copies, less than several Deadpool comics, Saga, Guardians of the Galaxy, and Powerpuff Girls #1. But as Steve Rogers steps up his game on the silver screen, naturally a number of us are going to take a second look at his past on the page. Let's get started. There's a reason that Marvel Studios has skipped over all of Cap's adventures since he thawed out in the 1960s and gone right to Ed Brubaker's legendary run, which began in 2005. Not only did Brubaker introduce the Winter Soldier, a shocking twist for Cap that not only re-energized his title, but gave it a much-needed darker edge, but then he killed Steve off. I think we have our plot for Captain America 3. Yes, the Winter Soldier and the death of Captain America instantly became classic Cap stories, and we should read both of them. Now, because the movie is coming out, Marvel Comics is being a little screwy with their graphic novels. A new edition of The Winter Soldier is coming out in March 2014, right before the sequel, but you can still buy the Ultimate Collection or just the regular old collection. In fact, you might just want to go old school and pick up Brubaker's volumes 1 through 4. By the way, there are links to buy these comics in the video description. Okay, so with Brubaker's run, you should be pretty in step with Marvel Studios' creative vision for the character. But if you want to dig a little deeper, Brubaker has already obliged with the miniseries Captain America and Bucky, the life story of Bucky Barnes, which retells the origin of these 2 classic characters now that we know what we know. So trying to avoid spoilers! Anyway, I've actually read this mini enticed by Chris Samnee's art. And while it does look beautiful, Brubaker, teaming with fellow artist Mark Andreyko, also tells a very compelling story that's easily accessible to new readers to Cap or comics in general. I highly recommend this trade before or after you see the new Captain America movie. You might also want to try the Winter Soldier solo title, which Brubaker also wrote, at least the first 3 volumes. Black Widow co-stars, at least in the comics she's his lady friend, and Butch Guice's artwork is pretty good. In fact, that's a good way to describe this title, pretty good. Now, if you want to read something that's really good, I recommend Avengers Prime. Brian Michael Bendis teams up with Alan Davis for this miniseries featuring Cap, Thor, and Iron Man, a team-up that was meant to capitalize off of the movies, but turned out to be just as fun in its own right. By the way, for everyone ticked off that I'm still not sold on Chris Evans as Steve Rogers, it's because I've been looking at that. So let's say you read the comics I just recommended and you want more. Excellent! There is more. Another writer that has done right by Cap is Mark Waid, who is currently working his magic on another difficult-to-write character, Daredevil. Waid kicked off his run with Operation Rebirth, which essentially put Cap's house back in order after almost a decade of mediocre stories. Plus, Ron Garney handled the art, you know, the guy that recently wowed us with Get Mystique. Sure, you'll find that Waid's run is lighter and zanier than Brubaker's, but as any comic book fan will tell you, it doesn't have to all be so serious. Another famous Waid Captain America story is the mini he did years later, Man Out of Time. And even better, this is a standalone story which is a character study of Steve Rogers immediately post-thaw. What was it like for him to meet the future and say goodbye to the past? Waid explores exactly the same scenario that the sequel plans to. Now let's turn our attention to the forgotten Captain America writer, Mark Gruenwald. While Waid brought energy to the character and Brubaker mystery and intrigue, it was Gruenwald who gave Rogers his moral center. While Frank Miller famously imagined a Superman undone by blind loyalty to the US government, Gruenwald took Cap in the opposite direction. The Captain's storyline, spanning 18 issues, had Rogers break from the government to fight for what he believed in, something he would do again decades later in the epic Civil War crossover event, and seems to be on the brink of doing in the Marvel Cinematic Universe as well, based on that Fear Not Freedom line from the trailer so many fans have sparked to already. Hey, sorry if you don't like it, Sam Jackson and Robert Redford, but it's called freedom of speech. Deal with it. Finally, something that Marvel Studios has had to deal with is Cap's undeniable lack of popularity. And they've done that by giving him a kick-ass supporting cast in the sequel, who you can also follow on the page. Black Widow is riding shotgun here. It will be interesting to see how she factors into the cinematic version of the Winter Soldier story. And one of my favorite Black Widow miniseries is Itsy Bitsy Spider. The talent on this is top-notch. Wanted artist J.G. Jones and the best lady spy writer in the biz, Greg Rucka, teaming up with fellow writer Devin Grayson. Remember her? Great writer who unfortunately killed her career by having Nightwing get raped by female villain Tarantula. Oh, I'm sorry, she insisted it was merely non-consensual. I'd put a rape joke in there, but there are no rape jokes because it's not funny. On a lighter note, Falcon will be making his Marvel Cinematic Universe debut here, and you can check out his debut in the comics by picking up Essential Captain America Volume 2. But for you hardcore purists who want to track down the actual issue, it's number 117. And classic Cap villain Crossbones will also debut. That's him in the trailer pre-Crossbones-ness saying Cap doesn't have a parachute. Can you feel the jealousy in his line read? While he pops up in Brubaker's run, he first appeared in another classic Captain America story, The Bloodstone Hunt, also by Gruenwald. By the way, Batroc the Leaper is also featured there and will be in the sequel, played by French-Canadian UFC champion Georges St. Pierre. So that's your Captain America the Winter Soldier primer. Cap fans, feel I missed anything? Be sure to list your own recommendations in the comments down below. I'm Grace Randolph for Think About the Ink and hope to see you back on Friday for Between the Pages. Until then, happy reading.